I made over $50,000 off of just sneaker reselling. And today I'm going to break it down in this video, a step-by-step approach on how I approached it myself and what mentorship I got and how you guys can all apply it to your everyday life. After watching this video, you should at least have a good grasp on what sneaker reselling industry is and how you can get into it as soon as today. I'm Chris. I'm only 18 as I stated, and I'm in my college dorm. I'm not too different than the rest of you, but I want to say that there is money-making opportunities in absolutely everything. I started at the age of about 16 working off commission for my brother. He basically taught me little step-by-step, and I grasped it. I used his money. I tried to grow my capital a little bit. But by the time I started my own, I only had about $4K to my name, and I was able, from just saving money from birthdays, Christmases, I just never was really a big spender. But with that $4,000, from May 2024 till now, I was able to increase that to over $50,000. And I want to tell you guys how I was able to start. So let's begin in May of 2024. May of 2024, I think I finished off the month with only about $600. Nothing crazy in profits, but more than I've ever done before. Now, May was definitely a breakthrough month because at the end of May, I made my first deal with a store. My biggest thing was I would buy shoes from resellers and then sell it to either a wholesaler or another reseller. The margins were obviously slim, only making $10 to $20 per shoe, if that, usually $5 to $10, maybe $15 per shoe. And I was working with not a lot of capital and obviously not a lot of inventory. But what I was able to do is I kind of figured out how to have this key outreaching method to where I was outreaching to stores about what I could do for them and what they could do for me. The biggest thing when you're outreaching to stores, not to get off on a tangent, but make sure that you provide value to them as well as them providing value to you. That goes for absolutely any outreach that you're ever going to do in your life. Whether you're being employed at a job after graduating college, whether you are applying after going to trade school, maybe to be a welder. You need to learn that you need to provide value as much to them as they are going to provide to you, and you need to show them what value you're going to be to the company or what value you're going to bring to the client. So when I first sold this store named Fan Cave STL, they're located in Missouri, and they do not sell shoes anymore. But when I made this first deal, I was able to bank out off of $260 in one deal. That was by far the most money that I ever made on my own within one deal ever. It was a breakthrough because I realized how I can outreach people. I realized the stores that I could outreach that could pay higher. I realized what inventory they would like. Obviously, times have changed when I sold to them. Jordan 1 lows, Jordan 1 mids, all this type of stuff. But progressively, I was able to build and build and build. My second store that I really worked with a lot was Viper Soles. And I'm only name dropping these people because I believe that if all of you were to outreach to them, maybe not Fan Cave anymore, they don't sell shoes, but maybe like Viper Soles, you might be able to find some success within yourself too, because you might give them a better and more competitive price. But when I outreached them, I found them on TikTok. I made sure to tell them that I found them on TikTok and that I love the content. And then after I said I love the content, I said, I sell shoes and I would love to work with you guys. You guys seem like great people, great page, and I can provide any type of inventory that you want. And I guarantee it's going to be a competitive price. A simple message like this was what was able to land me multiple thousands and thousands of dollars before I made the steady connections I have now. But you'll see the error with just trying to do this day in, day out come later in the video. I just want to begin a little bit talking. So I started off on Instagram. And when I started off on Instagram, I was able to post stories, make posts, outreach to a whole bunch of stores that they all have Instagram pages because sneaker reselling is a big, broad variety of connections in a network that is almost majoritarily done off of Instagram. Obviously, there's other things like WhatsApp, Facebook, and I'll talk about this, but Instagram is what helped me grow. So like I said, the simple outreach message that I would send, like I basically just talked about, I would be sending to tons of stores a day. This is when Yeezy slides were booming, retros were doing well, and Asics just started getting into a thing. In June, I made about $2,400. That was more money than I ever saw in my life. I was beyond happy. I was able to make money on vacation. I was able to thrive. Come July, I made even more. I did about $2,800. So I feel like my reselling career is going amazing right now. And I'm not here just to tell my story, but help all of you. This is when ASICs were brought in. If everybody knows, probably everyone knows that watching this video, what ASICs are. If you know about the hype around them, ASIC 1130s were huge. You could buy them retail and sell them for $20 profit each pair. It was massive. It was something I've never seen before, and I really wanted to get into it. So what I did is I derived all my focus on solely just ASIC 1130s. That is something I'm going to tell you. That is a mistake that none of you guys should do. Never put all of your eggs in one basket because you never know where it's going to go. I was buying 60 pair clips at a time of ASIC 1130s, whether this is White Clay Canyon, White Cloud Gray, or Dark Neptune. Those were the three that moved really well for me. I was able to make $2,000 in August, still doing well, but seeing that decline. Now this is where everything changed. ASICs were not as popular anymore. Stores didn't need the ASICs as much. The suppliers that used to give me my retros, or just the other people that I would buy off of, didn't really have them as much because I wasn't really actively looking for retros anymore. I couldn't pay the competitive price. My stores needed things that I couldn't provide. And that's why in September, I made a total of negative $100. So from making an average of little over $2,200 a month, an average in these past 3 months, I went to making negative $100. And I was demotivated. I was extremely demotivated. But let me tell you guys how I was able to turn that around. I was able to turn that around come the next year. Because again, time and time again, I could not get back in to this retro aspect, this Jordan aspect, or any of these shoes that were moving through me. But to give a little context on what works now, I'm going to tell you that retros are huge. And retros were huge when I started reselling in September when I made negative money. But I was too focused on ASICs because I did put all my eggs in one basket. So what I was able to do come September, October, November, December, I made a total about $1,000. After making a total of like $1,000 in those like 4 months, obviously it wasn't too bad for my age, but compared to making the $2,500 I was making for the past 3 months before that, it was extremely demotivating, and I was tired of it. So I set goals. My goal for 2025 was to ultimately make about $4,000 in 1 month and hopefully make a consistent $4,000. January came and I was trying to be a new person. I tried to be as locked in as possible. And I ended up doing, I think, $1.8 grand, which was not bad. And I felt like I might have been a little bit more on track. I was still moving ASICs and I was still doing things I didn't want to do. And honestly, I was going to this one sneaker event, Got Soul in New York, and I felt like I was comfortable with where I was at, but I still wasn't where I was before, and I wanted to be further than that, if anything. So that fast forward to February 2nd, I will remember this date forever because it was the day that I think that I really was able to come into reality about where I was at. And that was when one of my wholesaler friends visited me and we went to Philadelphia SneakerCon together. I'm sure all of you are familiar with SneakerCon, whether you're in the sneakers or not. It's a huge event. And I was able to learn step by step about what he did. What was he buying? I was like, okay, he's buying all these retros. He's not really doing ASICs. I was like, oh, do you want to do ASICs? He's like, no, I don't really do those. Like, he was like, those. So obviously I'm asking him, yo, why aren't we doing ASICs? Like, those used to move for me crazy. Like, we could buy a ton too. Like, they're cheaper shoes. And he was just like, that's not going to work. He was like, he was like, I don't move ASICs because they don't move anymore. He's like, I used to do it. You've seen me post up like bulk White Cloud Grays and stuff like that. I was like, all right, I'll follow you along. You make more money than me, you know? So, I mean, what I'm really stressing here is how important it is to like have that one person or have a person to like guide you in the right direction when you're not going there. So like for me, it was him just because he was there for me when I was just kind of down, and like he was more successful than me. So surround yourself with the people that are more successful than you, and you're gonna be able to scale up way higher. So with that being said, what I was able to do from there is, that was in February, so the next month was March, where I made a record month. In March, I hit about $3.3 grand, which obviously my month in July of 2024 was about 2,800. March of 2025 was 3,300. So, I mean, obviously, like, my scaling wasn't great there. It wasn't great. But although my scaling wasn't the best, I kind of had the formula of where I can get to. I realized what I need to start working on, what I need to do is basically go back to my roots and start outreaching again to people that, I haven't been selling to, just because I've been selling other stuff that they don't need. So that basically transitioned into April, which I made about 3,800, which was still very good for me. I always felt like I was on top of the world. I still felt like I was doing amazing. And all of this was just without being too much said, I had more capital, I had better people to work with. And then, around this time is when I really started working with this one guy from Australia that me and him are very good business associates, partners, whatever. We work together all the time. Without just that, we're friends too. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you have to realize with some of these business connections. It doesn't have to be all seriously all the time. Like, you don't always have to be so forward with people like, oh, if you don't like don't talk to me if we're not doing business, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to strengthen a connection like that. So that was basically what helped scale my stuff up. But then obviously come May, I think I sat around 3,500. Nothing crazy, but I was still there. And I was still building to that 4K a month that I was so dearly wanting for 2025. In June, I was able to hit that. I hit my record month by far of $4,400 made in 1 month. And that was one of the biggest stepping stones that I ever experienced. It was something that I realized what I could do, what my potential was about, and what I'm going to keep doing going forward. It was incredible. I knew exactly what I was doing at the time, and I realized what worked for me. And obviously, I adapted and I overcame, and I stopped putting all my eggs in one basket. I started drop shipping more lists. I started drop shipping more lists. I started moving stuff like Labubu. But it wasn't like I was only going straight to Labubu. I was still moving a ton of other stuff, whether that was a whole bunch of retros, and then obviously I was still moving a little bit ASICs too. I was doing all that, moving New Balances, connecting up with stores, and I was still using the same outreach method that was from my roots. And then obviously, come July, I'm going to scale higher because I'm such a good mood about the money I'm making that I was able to make a total of 7.5 grand in July. Now, to this day, it is still my record month. I haven't been able to break that. I think because of school right now, I was super locked in. I was in the summer, senior of high school summer, and I was able to just really lock in, get this task done, this task done, this task done. Was able to do everything I wanted to. I went to Chicago, got to see Chicago. I was in an overall amazing mood, and I felt like I was on top of the world. And it's really only been up since then. There hasn't been too many downs. For the past 3 months, I've been making a consistently over 5 grand, and it is now the day of October 26th, and I am doing well for myself. I'm extremely happy with the position I'm at. But that's enough about my story in general. I want to tell you what I can provide to you guys that I did. Obviously, I went over the breakdown of my first store deal that really levitated my business up to where it is now, which was with Fan Cave, and then the other connections I made as well. Now, the thing is I'm not just going to provide all of this value at face value. I'm going to make sure that you guys get an in-depth, everything that you guys can know, I'm going to give you. So, what I started to do come this summer, where I scaled the most, and what all of you guys can do too, is I noticed what works in the time. Obviously, when you see something trending, you have to hop on that. But just because it's trending doesn't mean that you have to put all of your eggs in one basket, like I said. The way I got out of my slump was by hanging out with somebody that was levels ahead of me, and still is levels ahead of me, but I was able to befriend him and become good, it was a good connection to have because it really helped me. It helped me grow. And honestly, that is one of the biggest things within business. So the first thing I'm going to tell you about reselling is surround yourself around a good network. Whether this is a cook group that you join, whether this is the free networking group, whether this is a Facebook group, whether this is a group on Instagram that you find, or whether this is local clients that you have. Build a good network of people that are going to motivate you and allow you to become a better, not only person, but a business person as you were before. You want to be better. Every day you want to be better than the day you were before. And that doesn't mean making more money, but that means maybe I didn't make $100 yesterday, but instead I was able to reach out to a new store and make a new connection there. That's something that could always be happening. That's something that's huge. So What I come here to say is what I would have done if I started right now, right here today. First thing I would have done is I would have started joining Facebook groups earlier. It is one of the easier ways to be able to find retros. And retros, like I said, they haven't died and they're not going to die. It is a shoe that people are always going to want. People are always going to love the Jordan 4 silhouette, whether this is for cheap or whether this is for expensive. Like Jordan 4 White Thunder that released was extremely expensive and people still wanted it. And then Jordan 4 Rare Air that released that's sitting way under retail or for retail, people still want it. It's a shoe that is never really going to go out of style. So focus on those type of things. See what's around you. Build a brand on Instagram. Once you build a brand on Instagram, you're going to be able to see who everybody is. You're going to see, oh, this person's doing that, this person's doing that. And overall, you can try to balance a little bit of the two of those. Whether that's selling on apps, StockX Consignment, which is StockX Flex for all of you guys that do not know what that is. That is Alias Consignment, Alias Drop-Off if you live near the location. All of these type of things. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is you don't need to be specializing in one thing. I mean, my profits and my margins, they come from literally a wide variety of sources, whether this is selling to stores, whether this is apps, which I just talked about. And honestly, the one similarity that they all have is just, in general, being a good shoe that is going to move. If a shoe moves on apps, most likely a store is going to be able to move it. And that's really how it goes. I mean, to be completely honest with you guys, there's a lot of different ways to read the market and to figure out what moves best for you. But to go back a little bit on what I mentioned about building a brand is I think that's where you can see the most success. And you don't even have to completely build up a brand to know what to buy, but building up a brand to sell, building up a brand to buy, it's really good aspects. I mean, the biggest thing that if you guys wanted to start right now, make an Instagram page, make it whatever kicks, whatever shoes, or you don't even need that. Make it a personal brand, but start following all these wholesalers, all these stores, all these resellers, and see what they're posting on their story. If you see someone post, a lot of times they'll post sold. Like if I post a shoe and then you see that it posts sold, and it's rather quickly, then that shoe probably moves. And then the way to read market is obviously there's plenty of different things on that, whether this is just using the equation where you go on StockX and you do ask plus bid, what's called divided by 2 times 0.9. You could do that, which is the oldest method in the book, but it still works regardless. I think a lot of people overcomplicate things. I know that I've coached a few people throughout my career, and honestly, one of the things that everyone tries to do is they try to be very careful, and they don't want to take risks. And that's one thing I cannot say enough. It's just the ability to take risks is going to be everything. Well, whether it's buying 50 shoes and taking a loss on them, the fact that you made the buy and you took the loss and you took the hit, you're going to realize that you can keep moving forward and doing what you did. Like you guys heard, quarter 4 of 2024, I barely crossed $1,500 in profit and then cleared that the next month and then times it by 4 in my record month. It's all of it is very subjective to just risk. And honestly, if you can take those risks, then you're gonna be able to be successful. Overall, what I want everyone to get out of this video is that everyone can do it. The way I did it was starting with just having a brand on Instagram, outreaching to stores after getting the pairs on Discord or Facebook or Instagram, and then they buy the pairs. It's as simple as that. It's a business transaction. You'll see it throughout the world. You see it time and time again. Everything that you do is business transaction, whether that's buying a drink from Wawa or any type of convenience store, or whether that's closing a multi-million-dollar deal off of maybe buying a company. Every single thing that you do within your life can be known as a business transaction, and that's what you're doing. And it's as simple as you make it. What I'm here to tell you guys is that if you do start these simple steps that I'm telling you, whether this is just creating an Instagram page, following resellers, making your first buy with just the equation I just said off of StockX Market, all of a sudden you're going to be able to be profiting. You're going to realize that you're going to be able to get a few $100s here and there, and you might not see insane results, but eventually you can get used to it. It's not for everyone, but for the people that have the drive and the motivation to make money, it's one of the best things you could do to start off at a young age. And I highly recommend everyone to do what I did. I mean, I went from making $500 a month to negative profit all the way up to $7.5 grand in 1 month. Everyone can do it, and I've seen people scale it even higher, people that are younger than me. It's just the matter of what you want to do. If you want to take the risk, or if you want to sit around and are too careful to make your first buy. If you're too careful to make your first sell because you don't feel like you're profiting enough. If you buy a shoe, sell it for $10 over what you paid, you're making $10. $10 is $10. The more and more you do this, the more and more you increase the volume, it's going to allow you to get way higher than you were initially. And I think with all of this being said, in the grand scheme of things, this might not be something you want to pursue long term, not by any means. I'm not saying I do, but it's scalable and it's not oversaturated no matter who tells you it is. If you can find a good program, if you can find some good people, and if you can build those connections and you have that drive and you put your mind and your effort to it, and you're in class that doesn't matter in high school or whatever, and instead of paying attention to that class, you're on Instagram on your computer and you're outreaching 100 DMs a day, you are going to get further ahead than 95% of the people that have those pages because they are not doing that. It's as simple as about how hard you work. You might not make any money your first month, but if you put in that work, then the universe is going to send that signal and you're going to be able to make money eventually if you put in that hard work. And this is one of those business models that it's not sit around and wait for shit to work. You have to tackle it. You have to grab it by the ankles. You have to make sure that hold on for dear life, because I promise you that the money is there to be made. And I'm trying to show you guys that as 18 years old, making 50 grand in profit in less than a year and a half, and only making more and only scaling higher nowadays, I'm telling you, whether you're 12, whether you're 50, whether this is a side hustle, whether this is your full-time job in your high school, it's something that everyone can do, and it's something that everyone can scale. So that's my little introduction. I hope everyone enjoyed, stayed till the end. And trust me when I say this, that this is something that everyone could do. I say it time and time again. Take those risks, and maybe I'll give you a little reading on how to read the market and get back into this type of stuff and try to really teach you guys even more.